What is going on, guys? I'm Optimus Philip, and this may very well be the single worst episode of Percy Jackson thus far. I kid you not, most of what happens in this episode is completely made up for the show. Do you want to know how much of the book made it into this episode? The gang get on the Princess Andromeda, Percy frees a Pegasus named Blackjack, and Percy and Luke get into a fight. That's it. That is all the book content you get in this episode. And do you want to know what you don't get in this episode? Any of the chapter that the episode was named after. Like, the episode is named We Go Down with the Ship, which in the book was the chapter where Polyphemus sinks the Queen Anne's Revenge, but that does not happen in this show at all. So, literally, this episode's title is a lie. It was one thing when We Take a Zebra to Vegas only had a zebra on screen for a few frames, and at least I Play Dodgeball with Cannibals had Percy dodging balls thrown by cannibals, but in this episode, nobody goes down with a ship because no ships go down because none of the events of the chapter actually happened. Like, what is even the point of naming episodes after book chapters if you're not gonna follow the chapters? So that's my first big rant out of the way. The conflict of this episode is that the female protagonist has been captured by the enemy and the male protagonist has to rescue her. I'm sure a lot of people are going to love that. I mean, I will give them this. Her ultimate rescue comes from another female character, so I guess there's a little bit of a twist on it, but it's hard to ignore the fact that, yeah, Annabeth kind of got turned into a damsel in distress here. Meanwhile, Luke gets his hands on the Golden Fleece and lays it on top of the sarcophagus to try and resurrect Kronos, which, gee, doesn't that sound familiar? Almost like it's a direct copy of the single worst part of the movies that this show was meant to erase. Like, they don't go all the way with it here. Percy does take the fleece away before Kronos can fully resurrect, but still, it did kind of give me flashbacks and made me question why. Like, why are you copying these movies if you hate them so much? It just does not make any sense whatsoever. I suppose there are some good things about this episode. We get the culmination of Clarisse's character arc here. She begins this episode in a similar spot to last week where she says that the fleece is all that matters to her and she doesn't care what happens to Annabeth. But when she overhears Allison saying that she plans to kill Annabeth, she drops everything and goes off to rescue her. So all that growth she's been having does pay off, and she does fly home with the fleece in the end, so yeah, that all works out. I will say I found it kind of funny that she spends most of the first half hiding behind a locker watching Luke's demigods play mythomagic. Like, she literally does nothing for almost half the episode. It's a little bit ridiculous. We get to see Percy use the invisibility cap in this episode, which I guess was kind of cool after they cut all the parts where he used it in Season 1. I will say I did find it kind of weird that he kept taking it off and putting it back on again throughout the episode, but the more I think about it, it actually does kind of make sense. At one point when talking with Annabeth, Percy mentions the cap being surprisingly itchy, which, if you've read Chalice of the Gods, you may remember that the cap causes whoever wears it to feel like a bunch of spiders are crawling all over them. Not a thing in the first 5 books where Percy wears the cap multiple times and doesn't mention feeling anything. But I guess it does explain why he keeps taking it off here because it's genuinely that uncomfortable, so I guess it does make sense. This episode also gives us our first instance of Percy talking to a horse when he frees Blackjack. And honestly, it feels like the writers forgot that they didn't set this up, because Percy just walks into the stall and starts having a conversation with Blackjack, and I have to imagine it must have been really confusing for anyone who hasn't read the books, because this is Percy using a power for the first time, and the show doesn't acknowledge this at all. There's no fanfare. It genuinely feels like the writers thought this was something they'd established when they hadn't. So it just feels weird. But then we get into my real big problem with this episode, which is that they spoil the Thalia twist. Annabeth has a vision in a dream about the Golden Fleece bringing Thalia back to life, and from then on, the show cannot stop going on about the fact that the fleece will bring Thalia back. Like, No, this is the final plot twist of the book. They keep doing this. They keep spoiling plot twists before they can actually happen. Why do they hate plot twists so freaking much? Wow, 2 rants in 1 video. How do you like that? Also, for some reason, they make it out as if Thalia coming back isn't part of Luke and Kronos' plan, even though in the book it absolutely was. Like, Thalia coming back was only half the twist. The other half was that even when Percy thought that he had won, Kronos still found a way to leverage the situation to his advantage by bringing back another demigod he could use for the Great Prophecy. And that sets up the whole conflict of the Titan's Curse. So, I don't know what they're going for here. Are they planning to use Thalia as a pawn or not? If not, what are you going to do with her in the 3rd season? Oh, do you want to know what else they spoil? The Great Prophecy. Yeah, when Percy goes to retrieve the fleece, Kronos tries to tempt him into leaving it by offering to tell him the Great Prophecy, and he gets through a few lines before Percy takes the fleece and shuts him up. So, yeah, we've heard more than half of the Great Prophecy 3 seasons ahead of when we're supposed to know it. Again, this is the exact same thing that the movie did, and it was terrible in the movie. So, I have to ask, why, if you hate those movies so much, are you doing it again here? For a couple more little things, Clarisse is still carrying around the sharpened stick she made to fight Polyphemus back in episode 5, even after finding actual spears in the Andromeda's armory. In fact, when she goes to fight Allison towards the climax, she throws the real spear down on the ground and proceeds to fight with the sharpened stick. I don't know if she just wanted to humiliate Allison or if this was some kind of prop error that they just rolled with, but either way, it didn't make any sense and was kind of ridiculous to watch. And then near the end of the episode, when Sally is driving them back to camp because, yeah, Sally drives them back to camp instead of them riding on the back of centaurs, she's driving a blue Prius with an I Love Teaching bumper sticker on it, which, are they saying that Sally is already seeing Paul Blofus? That's interesting. But before I wrap up, there's one more big thing I'd like to talk about, which is Luke and Kronos' relationship going forward. The episode ends with Luke confronting Kronos about why he didn't tell him that the fleece could bring Thalia back, and Kronos' only response is to torture Luke into submission, which I think has major implications on their storyline going forward. In the book, Luke remains loyal to Kronos right up until the end when he realizes he's being manipulated, while here it feels like they're setting up some distrust between the two a lot earlier, which leaves me a little unsure of how this story is going to go. Like, is Luke still going to abduct Annabeth? Is he still going to become a host for Kronos' body? I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to make this work, so I guess we'll have to wait and see if we even get that far. But yeah, I really did not like this episode. I genuinely wish that it wasn't part of the show, and instead we got an extra episode dedicated to something like making the sirens their own story or something like that. But let's take a look at our bingo cards and see what we have this week. I only see one square that we can mark off this week, and that is no letter jacket fleece. It remains a literal golden fleece throughout the entire episode. I'm leaving the party ponies unmarked for now because there's still a chance they could show up in episode 8, but for now, this is all we have. Just a quick reminder that if you do have a bingo and would like a shout out in my next video, please join the Discord server linked in the description and post your bingo card in the bingo cards channel. I have not yet had a single person claim a bingo, even though I know at least one person has all the squares they need for it. So, in case you missed it or forgot, that's how you get your shout out. But until next time, this is Optimus Philip, rolling out.